Right. Have you ever stopped to think about it? You're driving along, a bit of a breeze would be nice, so you press a button and whoosh, the window glides down. It's magic, isn't it? But how does it actually happen? How does a simple piece of glass disappear so smoothly into the car door? It's one of those brilliant little bits of engineering we take for granted every single day. We just expect it to work, without a thought for the clever cogs and wires hidden away inside. It's a simple action, but the story of how we got here is a fantastic journey from pure muscle to modern electronics. This simple act of letting the outside in wasn't always so effortless. Oh no. Long before the quiet hum of an electric motor, there was a different sound. It was the sound of effort, of mechanical bits grinding away, all controlled by your own hand. The journey from then to now is a perfect example of how cars have become less about brute force and more about clever convenience. It's a story about making our lives just that little bit easier, one window at a time. It's the sort of progress that you don't notice until you hop into a classic car and suddenly remember what it was like. The basic idea has always been the same. Move a heavy pane of glass up and down within the very tight space of a car door. Sounds simple enough, but doing it reliably, smoothly, and without it getting stuck is the real challenge. The door is packed with other things like locks and speakers, so the window mechanism has to be compact and strong. It needs to lift the glass perfectly straight, even as the car bounces along a bumpy road. This isn't just about moving glass, it's about precision engineering hidden right under our noses, or rather, our elbows. So, let's peel back the door panel, metaphorically of course, and have a look at the genius behind it all. We'll start with the good old days of mechanical might, where your bicep was the most important part of the system. Then we'll leap forward into the modern era of silent electric power. It's a brilliant evolution, from a simple handle that you had to wrestle with, to a sophisticated system that responds to the lightest touch of a finger. Prepare to be amazed by the humble car window. It's more fascinating than you think. Back in the day, operating a car window was a physical activity. You didn't just press a button, you grabbed a handle, the window crank, and you put some proper effort into it. Turning that handle clockwise would make the window rise, a bit like winding up a classic clock. To let in some air, you'd turn it the other way, and down it would go. It was direct, it was mechanical, and you felt completely in control. If you wanted the window halfway down, you stopped cranking halfway. Simple. It was a very honest piece of kit, with no electronics to go wrong. But what was happening inside the door, when you were busy winding away? It was all down to a beautifully simple system of gears. The crank handle you turned was connected to a small gear. This small gear then turned a much larger curved gear called a sector gear. This larger gear was attached to a set of arms, a bit like a pair of scissors called the window regulator. As you turned the handle, the gears would move the scissor arms, which would either push the window up or guide it down into the door. It was pure mechanical advantage at its best. The genius of this system was that the gears made it easier to lift the heavy glass. Without them, you'd be trying to lift the window's full weight directly, which would be incredibly difficult. The gears multiplied your force, so a few easy turns of the crank translated into enough power to lift the glass smoothly. Still, it required a bit of a workout, especially if the mechanism was old and a bit stiff. You could always tell when someone was opening their window from the rhythmic creak 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 sound coming from their car. It was part of the classic car soundtrack. Of course, this manual system had its moments. Reaching across the car to wind down the passenger window while driving was a proper stretch, almost a yoga move. And if you had children in the back, you'd hear the constant winding and unwinding as they played with the handles. But for all its quirks, the manual crank was incredibly reliable. It was a simple, robust design that did its job without any fuss. It was a hands-on connection to your car, a reminder that you were in charge of this magnificent machine. Then, as technology marched on, everything started to change. Car makers began looking for ways to make driving more comfortable and luxurious. The humble hand-powered window crank was in their sights. The big idea? Let's use electricity to do the heavy lifting for us. This was a revolutionary thought. Instead of relying on the driver's muscle power, a small but mighty electric motor could be hidden inside the door to take on the job. The age of the electric window had dawned, and our arms were about to get a well-deserved rest from all that winding. The transition from crank to click didn't happen overnight, of course. At first, electric windows were a feature you'd only find on the most expensive, top-of-the-range luxury cars. It was a symbol of status. If your car had buttons for the windows, you had truly arrived. For everyone else, the trusty crank handle remained the standard for many years. But like all good technology, it slowly became more affordable and more common. Car makers figured out how to produce the systems more cheaply, and soon enough, electric windows started appearing in everyday family cars. The core challenge was to design a system that was just as reliable as the old manual one, but infinitely easier to use. This meant creating a compact electric motor that was powerful enough to lift the heavy window glass time and time again without failing. It also needed a new kind of regulator mechanism that could be driven by this motor instead of a hand crank. Engineers had to fit the motor, the wiring, and all the new components into the same cramped space inside the door. It was a puzzle, but one they solved brilliantly. This move to electric power was part of a bigger revolution happening inside our cars. It wasn't just about the windows, it was about making the entire driving experience simpler and more focused on comfort. Power steering was making turning the wheel easier, and automatic gearboxes were taking the effort out of changing gears. The electric window was a perfect fit for this new philosophy of effortless driving. It was a small change that made a big difference, signaling a future where the car would do more of the work for you. So how does this modern magic work? When you press that little button on your door, you're not winding anything. You're simply completing an electrical circuit. Think of it like a light switch. Pressing the button sends a small electrical signal through some wires to a tiny but powerful electric motor hidden inside the door panel. This motor whirs into life instantly. It does the hard work that your arm used to do, but much faster and with a quiet, satisfying hum. It's a perfect example of brains over brawn, with a little spark of electricity doing all the heavy lifting. That motor is connected to a modern window regulator. While the design is a bit different from the old scissor-style one, the principle is similar. The motor turns a set of gears which then move a mechanism, often a flexible cable system or a set of arms, that is attached to the bottom of the window glass. When the motor spins one way, the regulator pushes the window up. When you press the button to open the window, the motor spins the other way, and the regulator smoothly guides the glass down into the door. It's all so seamless and elegant. When you put the two systems side by side, the difference is night and day. The old crank was simple and reliable, but it demanded your effort and attention. You had to physically engage with it. The modern electric window asks for nothing more than a gentle push from your fingertip. You can operate all four windows from the driver's seat without even thinking about it. It's safer too, as you don't have to lean across the car while you're driving. Plus, features like one touchdown and anti-pinch safety, which stops the window if it senses an obstruction, are only possible with an electric system. Ultimately, the evolution from a crank handle to an electric button is a perfect story of automotive progress. It's not the most glamorous innovation like a turbocharger or a fancy satellite navigation system, but it's one that has genuinely improved the daily driving experience for millions of people. It took a common task that required physical effort and made it completely effortless. That simple, quiet whir of a window gliding down is the sound of clever thinking, making our lives just that little bit better, smoother, and more comfortable. And that really is what great engineering is all about.